Hello, I'm Eric Matisik, co-chair of Denver Startup Week. Last year, we were able to bring the global audience together for Denver Startup Week, and this year, we're excited to welcome that global audience back as we celebrate and showcase the best of entrepreneurship that the Denver ecosystem in Colorado has to offer, in Denver and beyond. There are lots to explore this week, but most importantly, we're excited that you're joining us. We have nearly 50 sponsor companies who contribute to make Denver Startup Week possible. Let's show our love for these companies today and all week long. Thanks to our headquarters and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life, Capital One Cafe, the Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork, and our track sponsors who've made all the great content you're hearing today possible, which includes our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, our growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, design track sponsor, Battery 621 and the Public Works, people track sponsor, Exactly, and the spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing this excitement to the entire week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing Company, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, Gusto, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage Path, Red Bull Basement, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and the VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our sponsors and member sponsors who are listed on the screen, and thank you for your support of Denver Startup Week. Now, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Hey boss, Mountain West Q2 forecast, 2.3 million.
Nice. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Ugh, another one.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Emma. We are the People Track co-chairs and members of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee.
Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation.
A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep Denver Startup Week free and accessible for all, especially our People Track sponsor, Exactly.
On that note, please enjoy the session and the entire Denver Startup Week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our talk today. Thank you for joining us. We are broadcasting to you all from Charlotte, North Carolina, although we do have one of your very own from Denver here today. And we are going to talk to you all about relationships at work today. Not romantic ones, but professional relationships with our talk, Overmentored, Undersponsored, Add Rocket Fuel to Your Career. During our talk today, we're going to tell you about what sponsorship is, how awesome it can be, and how we are building it into the organizational culture at Method.
It's not. Oh, that's what. Yeah, so we can't share our screen. So if you could just give us 1 second to try to figure that out, we'll be right with you shortly. There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that, guys.
While Jamie is getting our screen share up, I'm going to go ahead and start introducing us. So I'm Hannah and this is Jamie, and we are 2 engineers at Method. So Jamie is a design-minded engineer with a special knack for making magic happen in React. What first drew me to her when we met was her absolute passion for knitting a cozy tech career around herself. She really does a great job of reaching out to other folks and getting in touch and having conversations with others. But one thing that really came in handy about that when we started our research is that she has this really gung-ho attitude about reaching out to folks and interviewing them, which is how we started our journey for building sponsorship into the culture at Method.
Yeah, Hannah is a charismatic, brilliant software engineer with this innate ability to streamline processes throughout an organization. Hannah is a creative at heart, and it shows through her incredibly talented aerialist dancing skills with ab muscles for days and a perfect red lipstick. We are here presenting to you because of her passion for helping those around her and her initial research into sponsorship.
All right, so let's get to it. First thing that we're going to do is talk to you all about what we mean when we say sponsor. And to do that, we are going to talk about a term more folks should be common with, which is the idea of a mentor. So when we're talking about a mentor, what we're talking about is someone who is more of a guide or a teacher. This is someone who is going to give you advice in your career based on their experience and help you work your way along your own path based on that experience that they've had and their ability to translate it to what you're going through. So they'll offer you insight on maybe troubles that you're having or questions you have about your path. They'll coach you. And this could be someone who is a peer of yours. So this is anyone who has had some sort of different experience from you that they are able to share with you and relate to your own path. Because advice is not anything that you can hold in your hand, these returns are intangible, that this is a gift a mentor will give you, and then you go out into the world and use it or don't use it as you see fit. On the flip side, we have a sponsor, which is what we're talking about today. So a sponsor, where a mentor is going to be more giving you advice, a sponsor is going to be focused on giving you visibility. So this is someone who is going to advocate for you when you're not able to maybe advocate for yourself. It's not necessarily a trusting, vulnerable relationship that you might have with a mentor. This is someone who is going to be more goal-oriented and focused on delivery with you and giving you the chance to show the skills that you have. This is going to be someone who talks about you to other folks. So as they're reaching out and advocating and trying to get opportunities on your behalf, this needs to be someone who has the influence and the ability to talk to folks about you well and to help land you those opportunities using the force of their own reputation. And again, this is not advice that they're giving you. This is actual opportunities. This is high profile projects. This is advocacy for getting that next promotion, that next step, that next opportunity that you need to proceed in your career. And because of that, this is definitely a tangible quid pro quo type of relationship, which is different than mentoring, that your sponsor is going to get you an opportunity and your side of the bargain is that you're going to do a really great job because they've kind of stuck their neck out for you in advocating for you to get on this project. So before we move on, just want to highlight this middle section here, which is that both a mentor and a sponsor are wonderful people to have in your lives. They might be an overlapping relationship, they might be separate folks. It's not that one is better than the other though, just that we're focusing today on opportunities and what those can do for you as opposed to just advice.
Sponsorship matters because opportunities are the best way to grow as a career haver. So while giving advice and guidance are great tools to grow, getting visibility and opportunities are vital to advance. Sponsorship matters to all.
And one thing that we know is cared a lot about at Denver Startup Week, so we're going to delve into that a little bit more, is the all side of that. So we're going to talk a little bit about sponsorship and diversity and inclusion. So what we consistently find in research around sponsorship is that women in BIPOC are over-mentored and under-sponsored as opposed to their white counterparts, their white male counterparts. So what we mean by this is that women and people of color in their organizations are not getting as much of the opportunity and advocacy as some of their white male peers, and that they're usually steered more towards learning opportunities and mentoring type relationships. There's been some research done on this by Sylvia Ann Hewlett, who's an economist. In her 2013 Google Talk, she shared that women have on average 3 times as many mentors as men, but men have twice as many sponsors, people advocating for them and really putting them out there. To double down on that, some research by McKinsey and Company in a 2019 Women in the Workplace report suggests that this number is far worse for BIPOC of all genders, which includes men. Sponsorship is really prone to like me bias. That same 2019 report found that 71% of sponsors that were in this study had a primary sponsee of the same race and gender as themselves. So people tend to say, I've been very successful, I see these similar traits in someone else in my organization, and it just happens to be someone who looks a lot like them. So it's really great that so many marginalized folks are receiving mentoring. So again, we don't want to put down the value of that, but this instinct to advise rather than advocate for these folks plays into this idea that minoritized people are not already skilled enough, smart enough, or ready for more responsibility or leadership opportunities.
The benefits of sponsorship are not exclusive to a selected group, which is why sponsorship should be available to all. All advocacy is, at its core, an exercise in empathy. If sponsorship is distributed equitably among employees, it bolsters inclusion. You could hire diverse talent all day, but you only get the full benefit of that diversity in your organization if you give those people with different backgrounds and views a real platform to share their ideas or to lead based on their knowledge.
All right, so we have established that sponsorship is super awesome. We all want it because who doesn't want to advance in their career, progress in their path of learning and growth? So how do we then get this into our lives? During our research phase, Jamie and I came across a couple different models of sponsorship. So the first one that I'm going to talk about with you all, and one that we're going to refer back to as this presentation unfolds, is traditional sponsorship. So this is the leadership path, quote unquote, from all the 2010s research from when sponsorship was first being studied. This is the rocket fuel relationship that we think of, where a high profile sponsor identifies someone in the organization who they think has a lot of potential to become a leader, maybe even replace them one day, and they help them find the path and the right opportunities to shine their way to the top of the organizational ladder. So there's a lot of really great things about this model. The sponsee in this model gets a lot of focused attention as they're groomed for leadership. The sponsor gets props for having a really great eye for talented individuals in the organization as their sponsee continues to do brilliant work after their vouching. And it's really great for the company because it means that we're already grooming future leaders for the day, which will come eventually when our current leaders want to move on and go play some golf for a while. However, Jamie and I felt that there were a couple gaps in this model, which we're going to talk about as we go further here. The first one is selection, that only future leaders receive championing in this model. So only people who are identified as high potential individuals according to the viewpoint of those who have the influence to raise their names up. The second one is democracy, which means that advocacy can only come from the capital T table level of influence in an organization. Only folks who are already leaders can really do this sort of championing in this model. And if a peer sees some really great work that you're doing, they aren't necessarily in a position to raise up your name. And the third and final gap that we felt was here was that of ease, that this is a really heavy investment relationship for a sponsor to put into a sponsee, and that can be quite intimidating and seem unsustainable or unapproachable to folks.
Our first thought was to fix the selection problem in traditional sponsorship. But traditional sponsorship is a little random for our taste. So we wanted to make it formal so that folks could request in their lives a sponsorship as a program. When we began our journey, our mission was to encourage coworkers to advocate for one another. However, we weren't clear on what we wanted to do or how to accomplish this. We started collecting all sorts of data. We interviewed leadership to get a deeper understanding about how visibility, opportunities, and pathways to get promoted at Method. We interviewed coworkers who started successful programs at their previous workplaces. Then we analyzed Kudos, a Slack channel in which we share praise for our coworkers, usually centered on client feedback, but we wanted to see how much of it was more sponsor-ish content. To fix the selection issue, we started focusing on building a program that connected sponsors to sponsees. Then we built a quite ambitious program structure. Because we wanted to make sure we could support self-selecting folks, pairing with a good sponsee based on what their traits were. But neither of us felt like any of our work was leading us to the next step. We found that our program idea still only supported sponsors who had a seat at the capital T table, and it didn't really equip anyone with the knowledge of how to be an effective sponsor. But Hannah and I are quite motivated people, and we knew what we wanted to accomplish. So after talking, planning, and failing a lot, we realized we had got off track our original mission.
So we loop back to an idea that had captured us from back in our research, a vision of a world where it's perfectly normal for people to talk their colleagues up. This is where we felt like we wanted to go with our vision of sponsorship in our own culture. Just a world where we enable more widespread advocacy and address the issue of democracy that we felt was present in the traditional sponsorship model. And as well in our program pass, the initial one. So for this, we turn to a second model, sponsorship as a culture. So this is something that Laura Hogan, who is also a technologist, wrote about in this really great blog post I would advise everyone to read called "What Does Sponsorship Look Like?" And I think she puts it really well in this quote that's on the screen, so I'm just going to read it off to you all. Anytime you can, overtly or not, help those around you see the skill set or experience of someone, that is a sponsorship opportunity. So this is a work culture in which you and your peers can advocate for each other, regardless of capital T tables.
So sponsorship as a culture, we broke into 4 different groups. First, you should learn opportunities. We recommend you start doing this by taking the time to learn the opportunities you have available to you. In other words, what opportunities you could recommend someone for. You could do this by reviewing channels of communication at your company and listening to your coworkers you work closely with. Pay attention to the individuals around you to see where they shine and the skills they have that could be raised up for notice. Then you should also understand the people around you. So to effectively advocate for someone, you should know their wants, interests, and needs in their career. If you observe someone you don't know well, set up a coffee date with them to get insight to what they want in their career path. If you're uncertain about raising someone's name, share the opportunity or opportunities with that person to see if they're interested. And the last but not least, advocate. You could be as aggressive or relaxed about advocating for others as you would like. We believe in sponsorship for all as a democratic process that has many different levels. It could be something as simple as mentioning someone's accomplishments in a company channel, or citing an interesting topic or fact that you learned from someone recently to a group of influential people. It could also be suggesting someone to write a blog or talk at a company or team meeting in which they could demonstrate their work. If you have the influence, you could recommend someone to be a good lead on a new project. I once heard no voice is too soft when that voice speaks for others. However small or large your advocacy is, it can make a huge impact on your culture. Hannah, for example, she raised my name in several different ways that brought me here today and speaking in front of all of you.
So it's really easy to have this happen between us, but we were faced with a problem that anyone who's thought about culture change is faced with, that culture change is really hard. So Jamie and I, again, found ourselves re-examining our approach and wanting to break it down smaller, that we ourselves felt like this model, just asking people to start advocating for others, maybe didn't make it easy enough for people to understand the behaviors and see simple pathways to doing so. So to make things a little bit easier, we turned to a third model, and the final one that we're going to share with you all today. So this one is one of our absolute favorites. This is Herminia Ibarra's sponsorship as a spectrum. So in this spectrum model, we have a range from private behaviors to public behaviors that break down 5 key qualities of being a sponsor, so that you could do any single one of these and it would be an aspect of sponsorship, which we felt makes it nice and approachable. So whether that is an individual private relationship where you're giving someone very personal advice, maybe in a more vulnerable space as a mentor, whether that is chatting with someone, just over coffee about how they might plan out the next few steps to get where they want to go in their career as a strategizer. It could be connecting someone to someone else who you know in your network who can help them along their path, or even maybe raising up someone's name for a good opportunity, whether it's a high profile project, or as Jamie mentioned before, maybe being a lead for a new team. And then in the most public sphere, we have advocating, which is when you actually go and speak up for someone in the rooms where maybe they aren't able to speak up for themselves. From this model was born the idea for our workshop, Bring to the Table, which Jamie is going to walk us through now.
So we have 3 different aspects. We have 3 participants, 5 prompts and introspectives, and 5 discussion topics. In our first round, we identified 3 coworkers to participate. We chose people who we felt were open to experimenting, vulnerable enough to spark deep discussion, and different from one another to provide insight to how people receive this quality of sponsorship. Prior to each discussion, participants will receive a prompt that give a small insight to what aspect of sponsorship we plan to discuss. The prompts will include introspective questions that will encourage participants to reflect on how they currently internalize the different aspects of each topic. We have structured our discussions based on the sponsorship spectrum Hannah so thoroughly went through with us, where each week we will discuss the advice and tangible actions required on each level. Over the course, we hope to show how the advice decreases while the tangible actions increase throughout the sponsorship spectrum. Throughout each introspective, we will push our participants to reflect on their own experiences. In our discussions, we want our participants to use their reflection as a flexible framework to better advise and understand the actionable measures they need to take on someone else's behalf. In our first discussion on mentorship, our focus will be on examining the values, advice, and experiences our participants have that shape the way they currently advise. Our goal is to have our participants use that reflection to see how it could be beneficial for a potential sponsee. The purpose of this is to learn to apply your own experience to someone else's path productively. In our strategizer discussion, we want our participants to reflect on their path and where it led them. Did they plan where they were going, or did it happen by accident? We aim to push our participants to use their path to see where others are going and what tangible actions they could take to help another person get where they need to. An example is helping someone map out their next steps in getting a promotion. As a connector, it is important to have an understanding of how you connect people without even realizing it. We want our participants in this discussion to identify ways they connect people and how to encourage others to do the same in their own ways. The takeaway from this discussion will hopefully get our participants to help their current or future sponsee find the people who ignite and feed their fire. An example is connecting a sponsee to someone that could help advance on their career path. In our discussion on opportunity giver, we want to spark a discussion centered on how others have made them shine and reviews different ways to do this. As a result, we want our participants to leave with an understanding of the different opportunities that could let others shine and they could help others get what they need. An example is raising your sponsee's name for an opportunity that aligns with their career path. Our final discussion will be focused on the most investment our participants can provide to their sponsees. This will include an exploration on the way they have been advocated for and what ways they could advocate for others. An example is highlighting your sponsee's accomplishments and advocating strongly that they should advance. We'd like to make sponsorship more approachable and empower folks to bring their peers' voices up in a place where conversations are held. For our participants, we want to encourage them to advocate more, think differently, and be better teachers. We hope to learn, for our goal, we hope to learn more about our current employees and work culture to develop new tools and better our program to adapt to our participants' needs. In an ideal workplace, we would have employees that will spread and foster a culture of sponsorship.
All right, and that concludes our talk about sponsorship. So yeah, let's chat. I think we can pull up the chat window and see if there are any questions. I know we have just a few minutes to maybe answer one or two questions. If anyone wants to reach out to us after the fact and talk to us more about this, Jamie and I love discussing this topic. Feel free to reach out to us at our emails, which are on the screen. Okay, let's see, do we have any questions in the chat? Okay, all right, well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.